Let me just first say that we could never say thank you enough for all of the support that we have received throughout this nightmare. I didn't, in my wildest dreams, think that we would have so much support the way that we have. This is a video that we don't want to do. A video that we never thought that we would have to do. And I'm going to try really hard not to cry throughout this entire video so that you guys can understand what I'm saying. If you're not following us on Instagram, then you may not know, but on Christmas Day, in the evening, we went over to my grandma's house and I laid Crew down for a nap. It was later in the evening, closer to like his bedtime. And when I went back to check on him, he wasn't breathing. And
so, you know, we're kind of all in the dining room area. Her grandma was, you know, like handing out presents and stuff, so we're kind of all collected out there, and I just remember her running out saying that he's not breathing, and it was just chaos from that point. You know, so trying to, like, people yelling to call 911 and started CPR, and anyways, I don't like to think about that point. That point is like the hardest for me to go back to and think about, and I don't
really remember that point. It was all really just a blur to me. I was kneeling on the ground, and a family member took over CPR on him until the fire truck and ambulance and they all arrived very, very quickly. Once he was at the hospital, they were able to start his heart. However, I knew from a medical background as a nurse that there was a good chance that he had been without oxygen for a little while, and I know what that can do to the brain. So from there, once his heart was started, he was air flighted to Methodist Children's Hospital. He was in the best hands possible. The staff there was outstanding.
When we got there, you know, I flew with Crew, so I was kind of waiting on her, and, you know, they got him into the room, and then, you know, they kind of told us next steps. So the doctor came in and said they were going to do a CT scan, and kind of told us that, you know, there's three things that can happen. One, it looks really good and we can be encouraged. It looks really bad, or it's inconclusive, and at that point it's not enough information for them to kind of make a decision either way. But that was kind of like the first moment where we kind of would know where he was. And she came back later in the evening and said that it was,
I mean,
it was really bad.
When we say evening, it was probably midnight at this point. I really don't know. I was in complete shock. He rode in the airlife only one parent could go, and I just felt like he would be better suited to fly. And so my parents drove me, and I just sat in silence the entire way. I mean, what could I say? What could I do? Everything was going through my mind, and not only that, I was thinking, why Christmas Day? So while we were in the hospital, they also did another MRI, and at this point he was attached to all kinds of tubes. He was ventilated. It was breathing for him, and the MRI showed that he did not have any brain function. And After that, legally, they're required to do 2 more brain death tests, where they do all of these tests to see if you react, if your brain is functioning even in the slightest bit, it will react in certain ways. And you can Google brain death test, it will tell you all the things that they do, but essentially they're testing for any kind of brain function, and it is legally required to do 2. And he showed no signs of brain function in either one.
We were hoping that there would be some signs. I not having any type of medical background, was just thinking, like, if his heart's beating, then his brain is functioning, because how could your heart beat if your brain's not telling it to beat? And so that was like me thinking, like, optimistically, that there was something.
However, your heart can beat without your brain telling it. Your brain is not in charge of your heart beating, so that's so during this point I assumed that eventually we would have to remove the ventilator, and that we would be able to hold him as he passed. However, this is something I always thought about in terms of myself. If something ever happened to me, I would want my organs donated, but it's never a thing that you think about or want to think about with your own children. And I think it would be easy for a lot of people to say, of course I would donate my child's organs if it came to that. But we had a meeting with a man who came in and spoke with us about organ donation, and I was just, before he talked about it, I was like on board. It sounded great. And then he told us kind of what happened, and that I would essentially have to say goodbye outside of OR doors. And I couldn't fathom that being the last goodbye to my child. So we told him that we would think about it.
Yeah, this is like on the second day that we're there, they come and kind of like just preliminarily talk us through the option. I
don't remember if it was the second day or I don't even remember how many days we were in there, but it was once they knew that he was not going to be coming home with us. They do send a person in there to talk about organ donation with you.
Yeah. And then so we thought about it, like, it wasn't something we came to like a quick decision with. We talked about it and prayed a lot, and just said, like, we're not going to rush and make this decision. They were very good at the hospital by telling us, like, as much time as you need, as much people you need to talk to, as much questions as you have, please, like, voice those to us.
And they made it clear, like, there is no wrong and right decision. It's whatever decision you feel at peace with. We never felt pressured in any way to do either decision. So I remember Jeff was napping. I think the next morning you were napping. It was early in the morning, and Jeff and I stayed at the hospital the entire time. I slept in a chair and he slept on the floor one night. They finally brought in another chair for him, but I was laying in bed with crew, and I would turn on Christian music. That's just kind of, I would lay there with him, and he liked to listen to lullabies and stuff. And I just had like this overwhelming like peace about the decision that I knew that we had to make. Like, I knew what we had to do. For the first time, something felt very clear to me. And so I went over and I woke him up and I said, I know what we have to do. And I said, we need to donate his organs. And so that day we called the organ donation, the guy who kind of comes around and talks to you, and we made that decision. There's a lot of education, I think, that people need to know about organ donation, because we had no idea how it worked, really. Essentially, after that second brain death exam, the organ donation people, once we signed the papers, I mean, the staff, we are in Texas, so it's TOSA, it's the Texas Organ Sharing Alliance. They were amazing, absolutely wonderful. They answered any questions we had, made us feel comfortable, and it was really hard to watch the different tests that they had to do on him. It's nothing really invasive, or at least too invasive. There was some tests, but it was very hard to watch your child all of a sudden become like I told them I felt like he was just a specimen or a vessel for somebody else, and it was really hard to watch that. But we also had moments in the hospital where we thought somebody somewhere in the United States, they were receiving the best news of their life, as we were getting the worst of ours.
When they came in and they started telling us that they found a match, and that the matches were like on the critical, like, needs an organ now. It's basically last hope for those families. All I could think about was like a dad, like myself, just not knowing what the future held, and hoping that that crew could help them, and that a part of him could
live on in somebody else. So you don't know exactly which organs they are going to use until they get into the operating room. They will have an idea because they've run the test to see how each organ is functioning. His surgery was scheduled for noon on it was either the 29th or the 30th of December. I don't remember.
The 30th.
Okay. So what they do at this point is they will do an honor walk for him, and all of the staff in the hospital that is available lines the hallways as they push him to the operating room. And I was allowed to ride on the bed with him as they pushed him through the hallway. So I just laid there with him, and Jeff walked next to us, and the staff lined the hallway and paid their tributes to him. And they pushed us all the way to the OR doors. And we sat outside the OR door and we said our goodbyes as the hospital or the operating team kind of stood around us. There's nothing in life that can prepare you for a moment like that. And I told him goodbye and that I loved him and I was so proud of him and that he was a hero. And I kissed him and I left him in the surgeon's hands and they took him in. Well, he was on the bed, but I mean, I left him in the surgical team's hands and they told us they would take good care of him.
They play a set list of songs while they're doing that, which I thought was great.
They asked me which songs that I wanted to play for him while he was in the OR, and so I wrote down an entire list of songs for them to play for him.
The TOSA, the people from organ donation stay with him the entire time when he's with the surgeons. His heart was donated because of the sensitivity of, the transfer of organs. They have to have the other patient there, which we didn't see, but just thinking about the other baby or the other child in there. Just pray that it goes okay, and that the other child, that the organ is a good match, and that that the surgery goes well, is really all you could think about from that moment forward. And then they walked us out for the flag raising ceremony. So
once the organs are matched, they fly in the surgical team of that child, and then, like you said, the heart recipient was actually there to have the surgery done at the same time. And so a few weeks later, we got the call that his heart had been donated to a 7-month-old boy, and his liver was donated to a 1-year-old boy. We hope and we pray that one day we will be able to meet these 2 little boys. I would love nothing more than to just hug that little boy that has the heart that we made inside of him.
During the time after, got a lot of messages or mentions on social media from families, from recipients of organs, from moms and dads who have a healthy child. Because I'm a baseball coach, I would get a lot of, like, this is my son, he plays college baseball, and he received a heart donation when he was 2 years old. And,
those kind of messages mean so much to us, because it helps us to know that we made the right decision. Somehow, and for some reason, our story kind of blew up in, I don't want to say the worst of ways, but it's been really hard.
It's been really scary when she told me, Good Morning America, posted the article. I pulled up, this was several days, 2 or 3 days later. This was after we'd already left the hospital. I opened up Yahoo, and her picture was on the front page of Yahoo. And it's really scary to see where this goes, because you don't always know what's being said, who's saying it, how things can get spun. It was just a very scary few days afterwards when the national media picked up the story.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Not only were we, and we still are, dealing with the loss of our child, but on top of that, we are dealing with stories and media, and just
a lot of articles were like YouTube stars, that's how it was titled. And I think when you title an article YouTube star XXX, automatically the connotation is that, people want to look for flaws in celebrity, and by the title of the article saying YouTube star loses child, people automatically almost started to look for negativity in it, rather than just saying, YouTube, personality,
I'm not a YouTube star.
YouTuber, just in general.
I had 90,000 subscribers. It was just a way to blow up the story, essentially.
For any criticism of posting pictures and, going to social media during that time, for me, it felt like the only thing that could have saved him was a miracle. And it just felt like, I kept hearing prayer warriors, we've got a group of prayer warriors that is praying for you. And it was more or less just trying to get help, and I didn't really know how to get help. And we've been so open with our lives in all times. I mean, almost 400 YouTube videos, and we're both pretty heavy on social. It just felt natural to update people that supported us, to tell them, like, pray for us, please pray for our family. Like,
I've shared my life with those people who had watched us prior to this. Most of the negative and rude and snark comments come from people who have never watched our family before. And in fact, I'm pretty sure anybody who did watch our family or was a subscriber or a follower in the past, they're not making those comments. Because you watched me the day that I found out I was pregnant with Crew. You watched me look at the pregnancy test. You watched me tell Jeff that we were having a baby. You watched me deliver him. And in some way, I hope that you feel connected to our family. So it only felt right for me to update on Instagram how things were going. That first post was so hard for me to make because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I wanted to share it all. And I knew that the only way that a miracle would happen is if everyone just prayed for us, because we do believe in the power of prayer. And we felt and continue to still feel those prayers that you guys have been praying for us. But it only felt natural for me to post on Instagram, and then I would have people asking for updates. And I've seen a lot of comments of just things like, how could you possibly be updating on social media? How could you be taking pictures at a time like this? And to be honest, I would probably think the same thing if I had never been through this myself. You wonder, how would you act in a certain situation, or how would you feel? And we spent days in the hospital just sitting there. I could only look at my son hooked up to those machines for so long, just his lifeless body there. It's not like he was awake. Sometimes I couldn't bear to just sit there with him while I knew he wasn't there. It really hurt. And so being able to have the support from so many people who have followed our family for so long was very helpful for me. And so I want to say thank you to you guys who have been there for us and for our family. The negative remarks do not matter. However, they have made it more difficult for me to grieve.
There's just no right way to act. You don't know that this is going to happen. You don't know how you're going to react to it. In a lot of ways, you feel in a daze. When I first got out of that first day when we left the hospital, it felt, and I posted this, the world was the same, but it felt completely different. And it was really scary, and we both didn't know, and still just in some respects don't know, like, what's ahead for us. And
everything has changed. Everything. My day-to-day life and my job has been YouTube for a while now. And now I don't know what the intentions are of people who are watching my channel. And comments will probably be turned off for this video. If you have gotten this far and you realize there are no comments on this video, it is because I cannot bear to look at any negative comments anymore.
We want to thank, both people at Guadalupe Medical Center I want to thank them for bringing him back. They worked on him for so long just to get his heart going before they flew him out, and the ability to stay with him and say my goodbyes over the next few days in the hospital was really important. At our blood drive, one of the first responders was there, and I was able to thank him for bringing for bringing him back and just giving me more time and a little bit of hope. Everyone at Methodist Hospital, our nurses, Laura, Jessica, Logan, and
Pauline from Tosa. Ishmael
Holly.
from Tosa.
Holly was amazing.
There was so many angels here on earth that we encountered along the way, and we could have had a different experience had the nurses and doctors all been different. And so just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the first responders, the nurses, the doctors, every single person that we came in contact with throughout the entire thing. It's all, a lot of it's a blur to me. You did really well remembering all those names, because I only remembered just maybe like 3 or 4, but
Thoughts and Prayers gets a lot of criticism. Just, our thoughts and prayers go out to whomever after something tragic happens, but it really was thoughts and prayers that meant the most to us. Like, just you saying that you prayed for my family is really impactful for us, and we're really thankful for that. We didn't set up the fund, and people started donating, and it was kind of crazy. And
we didn't set up the fund.
Right, we didn't set up the fund, and furthermore, it wasn't anything that we were thinking about at the time. Thank you if you did donate to it. We don't know financially how this all impacts our lives, and that's not something that you think about at the time. You just simply want them to take the very best care of your loved one as they possibly can.
Everything just comes very fast. As soon as your child is gone, you have to pay for all the expenses that come with it. You pay for a funeral, and you pay for a burial site. You pay for the headstone, you pay for all their bills. His bills have already started coming in.
It was really hard for people to start making accusations as if we are trying to profit or exploit our son's death.
Nothing throughout this entire thing has made me more upset than that. Because I would give anything. I would give every cent to my name, which is not very much, but I would give it all just to have my baby back. Going forward, we are just doing the best that we can to make his life known, to make good come out of it. And so far we have organized we already did organize and have a blood drive in his name. And we were able to help impact over 600 lives in our community just by having people come out and donate blood in honor of Crew. And this kind of became a worldwide thing where I had people tagging me in South Africa that were donating blood. So all around the world we had people donating blood in Crew's name, and that was really important to me and touching that so many people across the world truly care. I guess just our mission going forward will be to honor Crew in any way that we can going forward from this. And I don't know what God's plan is for our life or where we kind of pick up and go from here. Just know that we're going to do our best to continue to move forward the only and the best way that we know how. I do plan on continuing with YouTube. I don't know when I will start rolling out normal videos, but I knew that I had to make this one. I had a lot of anxiety about making this video, so being able to sit down is very therapeutic for me. So I may not word everything correctly or say everything correctly. Just know that these are just our fresh emotions. Tomorrow will have been 1 month on the 25th since we really last saw Crew in his true self. So just be gentle and kind. We just want to make known before we end this video just how truly thankful we are for the support. This entire thing has completely restored my faith in humanity in general. The way that so many people came together to take care of a family that you've never probably even met. The most of you have never met our family, but yet you feel like you know us, and I am just so thankful for that. And your support and prayers have really helped us and will continue to help us get through this and move forward. And I could never say thank you enough. My words could just never convey how thankful we are for you guys.
If you send a message, made a donation, send us a gift, anything that you
Big
did
or
for
small,
us,
anything.
there's no chance that we could personally thank everyone for all that they've done for us, but I just want you to know that we're so incredibly grateful for it. Thank you so much, and God bless you.